Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anand studio. Today we have a very special guest, Major General Harsha Kakkar with us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. Namaste.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It's an honor to be talking to you. So let's jump straight in. My first question is, how do you assess the internal security within India vis-a-vis before 2014 and after 2014 when Narendra Modi came into power?
See, the internal security in India was largely influenced in terms of the threats emanating via Pakistan's support to terrorism with the aim of trying to cause disturbances in India. As also from the Chinese side, in terms of the Northeast interference, in terms of the left wing extremism that's going on. So there was an intent, and the intent, we tried to block it. The government reaction was not to respond with force, mainly on account of a factor which was the nuclear threat. So, to a large extent, we had followed the policy, which is very famously today known by everybody as the Kadi Ninda policy, where you,
Yeah.
where you raised it up at the national level, criticized the Pakistanis, and you approached the world looking at it in a manner that help us out, tell them to calm down. But then we've also got to link this to the global environment. Uh, till about 2019, 2020, I think, sorry, 2021, the US was in Afghanistan.
Right.
So for them, for almost 20 years. So for them, Pakistan was a very important state because the only port that they had and the only aerial route that they had into Afghanistan was via Pakistan. They accepted a lot of crap that Pakistan did, including supporting the Taliban against them. If they could accept that, they would bloody well keep a silent, just close their eyes to what Pakistan was attempting to do in India. And now, on top of it, if you recollect, in Kargil, the fear of the US was that Kashmir is a nuclear flashpoint. And this sort of a fear had been retained by governments in power till about 2014. Now, what changed after that? Firstly, you decided to ignore the nuclear bogey. Second, you decided to take the battle to their end. Whether it was the surgical strike using special forces or the Balakot strike, forget about the casualties, forget about anything. The message you could.
Yeah.
Right. The next aspect was the growth in economy. While you grew, they went down. At the same time, as the US pulled out, the entire environment changed in Asia. The moment the US pulled out of Afghanistan, Pak was left on its own. Now, as far as China was concerned, the support continues. There is no doubt about it. Even now, the support to the LWE, to this, as also interference in India. You're aware of the NewsClick case which is going on. Neville Roy Shingham, who's now based in Shanghai, and the CCP are involved in some form within India. But to a large extent, that too was brought about by a lot of changes in terms of political maneuvering in the Northeast. A little bit of a hard stand against the movements in the Northeast, as also at the same time, India's stand in Galwan, all that gave a very different perception of the India we see today.
Right.
Okay, so this has been a total change in outlook, basically from being one who would accept incidents happening to one which will not accept and hit back. Today, India is not complaining of anything happening within in terms of a Pak-supported terrorist. Today, Pakistan is crying that Indian raw agents are involved in killings of Pak citizens on their soil. But what they don't want to say is every Pak citizen being killed is anti-Indian. whoever is doing it, the fact is your message is going across that we can and we will hit back.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, if you compare from a layman's perspective, earlier we used to see a lot of bomb blasts happening, all right, in trains and everywhere. Okay, multiple places, multiple cities, and all that. So now, after 2014, it has not happened, except for probably one case, very rare. And I think in Kashmir, anyways, things are happening on and off, very, very less though. But what has Narendra Modi government done well as far as within India's surveillance is concerned? How do you curb all this?
See, you have to get a feel of the ground. Your
Mm.
intelligence agencies, if they are
Mm.
involved in tasks other than their mandated task,
Ah, okay.
you will find that their performance is not ideal. If the
Mm.
intelligence agencies, instead of monitoring the internal security scenario, are involved in monitoring political opponents, are
Ah, okay.
involved in suppressing dissent.
Mm.
Now, when you move them away from their mandated tasks,
Mm.
there's a drop in performance. You leave them with their mandated task and tell them if anything goes wrong, you're responsible, you will find a wonderful performance.
Mm.
Now, when you were talking of the internal security, a fact that we've got to mention is a wonderful change in Kashmir between then and now. You look at the elections, I think it was 2017-18 when you had the parliamentary bypass elections, when Lok Sabha bypolls
Bipole,
of
yeah.
Srinagar. I think that was around when 19, when
Mm.
you had the major Gogoi incident. You had a 10%, 12% voting where you were literally praying for people to come and vote,
Yeah,
where your polling booths were under threat.
absolutely.
Today you got 58% voting. I think they've beaten the record of even Delhi and most other states.
Right.
But this is a difference that you're seeing.
So
This
it
is the
is, yeah,
this
it
is
is more
what
of an
India is
intent, is it?
projecting to
Yeah.
the world.
Mm.
That look, this is where we are. This is what is our democracy. Even in Kashmir, there has been no violence, which was common.
Right.
There have been no bomb blasts. There have been nothing to interrupt the election process. And not boot capturing and not tampering of an EVM are childish. I mean, they're not even to be thought about.
Correct.
As if you compare the ballot box stuffing in the US and the rest of it, it is nothing.
Absolutely.
Out of a, I mean, I don't know, I think 1.2 million ballot boxes, if a few, 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 are tampered with, these are very minuscule. But the fact is, you've had no bomb blasts, you had no boycott calls,
Correct.
you had no stone pelting on the election
Yep.
parties that have been
That's a
involved,
big thing, actually. Mm.
and you've conducted the world's largest democratic tamasha or process absolutely peacefully. What more can you look
Absolutely. Well said. So when it comes to the challenges that Narendra Modi government is still facing or will be facing in the future, how do you foresee that? Because we have to be always vigilant, anyways.
at? Are you talking of the external?
External now.
You see, when you're looking at the external,
Yeah.
there are two, three things that we need to consider.
Hmm.
The environment in South Asia will not change.
Hmm.
There is a geopolitical shift going on, and that will remain.
Hmm.
Now, if you look at South Asia or the general Asia environment, both our neighbors, major neighbors, are our adversaries.
Right.
Pakistan and China, we've got
Hmm.
undemarcated borders with both. Pakistan, the way it is currently, is not a major threat.
Yeah.
But we would always prefer Pakistan remains a stable country in one piece,
Okay.
right? That is something that you hope for because you don't want their nuclear assets to be split between small states and landing up in the wrong hands.
Hmm.
Now, China and India are in competition, not only in development, not only in on land issues or the border issues. We're also in competition in the neighborhoods.
Hmm.
While India is making inroads into the Chinese backyard, whether it's the Philippines, Vietnam, the nations with whom China is in conflict, China is attempting to do the same here, whether it's in Bangladesh, Maldives, Sri Lanka,
Sri Lanka. Hmm.
Pakistan, it's already there. This competition is going to continue.
Hmm.
The Chinese are looking to expand into the Indian Ocean region. We're looking to expand outwards. The threat along the LAC is not going to recede. India is now very closely aligned with the US. I wouldn't say an ally of the US, but we have an alliance. Not a military alliance, but definitely we have a lot of common thought and a common sharing of interests.
Hmm.
The US and China don't see eye to eye, India and China don't see eye.
Right.
So there is a lot in the region which implies that India has to be on its toes. We cannot ignore defense. We cannot ignore building our capabilities to
Hmm.
challenge external threats. We cannot sort of go back in terms of our diplomatic progress we made because that is India's global standing. Today, the world over, people talk of India, whether it's the Syrian foreign minister. I think yesterday it was the Denmark or the Netherlands ambassador who said, I mean, the greatest election that's going on.
Hmm.
Even the US ambassador. I mean, the world over, you've achieved a sort of a standing as a nation. You won't let that drop. Today, we released $1 million, I think, worth of aid for Papua New Guinea. So that's the sort of support India is giving globally. At the same time, our our scenario along the fronts will remain, so which means that you cannot let your guard down on either case. Pakistan is not a major military threat. It's a pinprick. It'll keep, you know, the small incidents of one kill here, one kill there. It's not going to do anything risky because it can't afford to be hit back. If India hits back at Pakistan, in case there's been a major misadventure, the Pakistan army's control over the country will collapse.
Right.
So they're being very careful in that text. All they're doing is a little bit of YouTube drama and a warning here, some odd comment here, there, and that's it. There's not much that they can.
Hmm.
With China, you're on your toes, you're reorienting your force structures. And when there is a transition in terms of reorienting of force structures, there is always a period when you need to be extra careful, and that is what is on. Capabilities to balance any Chinese misadventures. You got to remember the Chinese Navy comes from the Chinese coastline to the Indian Ocean is traveling 3,000 kilometers. For
Hmm.
us, it's our backyard.
Hmm. Got that.
So there's a world of a difference. So we need to look at that. We cannot afford to let our guard down. We need to maintain where we are today and possibly build on India's global standing and reputation as to what it is today.
Got it. Got it. So as far as Pakistan goes, we find a lot of opposition leaders showing a lot of sympathy, and some people want to have dialogues with them. Some people say we'll open up the Atari border or the Wagah border, okay, for them to come in without passports or whatever, or visas or whatever it is. So why? What is the politics behind this, from your perspective?
Drama and nothing else. See,
Yeah.
the fact is, I mean, you're going to open it for what? Medical
Hmm.
tourism? For
Hmm.
medical tourism, he needs a visa. The visa is not going to be given by the state government or the government of Punjab. It needs the central government to grant visas.
Hmm.
There was a time when we did grant medical visas when you were hoping to build relations. Today, you don't.
Hmm.
Now, next is, you see, the fact is, what are you going to gain? Pakistan was the one that stopped trade after 29, after
Right.
we abrogated Article 37. They are the ones who pulled out the high commissioners. If you're going to go back to tying up relations, the two things that Pakistan stopped, they have to recommence. One is reinstating high commissioners
Mm-hmm.
and commencing trade. Of course, India will also have to commit in the sense that we impose 200% duty on Pakistani goods after Pulwama. We may
Mm,
have to back down, but that's a different ballgame. The fact is, Pakistan needs trade with India in case it needs to revive its economy. India doesn't need trade with Pakistan.
perfect. Yeah, makes sense.
Indian goods are still going to Pakistan via Dubai at double the rate.
Hmm.
They need Indian goods to come to them directly. They're importing our vegetables, they're importing a lot from us via Dubai, including our medicines.
Hmm.
So the point is, by opening up, you can do nothing unless the central government comes in. No central government can bend down and show a willingness to deal with Pak unless Pakistan decides to turn its conditions, which is reinstating Article 370, which no government of India can. And for any Pak government to back down from this, especially with the political volatility which is going on there, it's a very, very vicious environment there. A mistake by Shehbaz Sharif can very well get the PTI of Imran Khan's back into creating ruckus
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Or Bilawal Bhutto is waiting for a chance to jump in. So for anyone to take such a decision, it's difficult. So it's all currently more of, I would say, drama and nothing else.
Got that. So, what is this whole issue about Agniveer that the opposition leaders are raising? Okay, why do they have such a big problem with Agniveer?
There has been a lot of misunderstanding down the line. The
Mm-hmm.
first batch of Agniveer has yet to finish 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Once they finish 4 years and they are settled in, will the entire Kahani of Agniveer die down?
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that 25% are under retention. The army is doing its own study. It may raise it to 50%.
Mm-hmm.
The balance, you've got reservations in all state police services. You've got it in central police organizations. So you're going to find that the lot which is there, quite a lot of them may not want to be retained. They may want to take what they've earned and possibly utilize it in some investments in terms of their own, business in a village or
Yeah.
in a small town where they can open a shop, open something, and start something. So really, one doesn't know what is going to be the state till the first batch finishes 4 years or the
Mm.
first two batches finish. Till then, amongst the population, there is a little bit of uncertainty.
Mm.
Now, what political leaders are doing today, they are ignoring the fact that the armed forces should be kept out of the debate.
Exactly.
But what they're doing is exploiting the uncertainty, painting a picture and trying to break the cohesion which exists within the armed forces on lines of religion, caste, creed, something we
Absolutely.
never heard of. In
Absolutely.
fact, I mean, I commanded a mixed unit. I joined a mixed unit, and I've been throughout the first 23, 24 years that I was in the regiment till I finally commanded and left. When you have a Mandir parade, which was there on every Sunday,
Mm.
the people who were serving the prasad may have been maybe a Muslim, maybe a Sikh, maybe from any caste, any
Absolutely.
religion. No one is bothered. We don't have that within us. I have come across my retired Javans coming to me, ki, Saab, I've applied for a job, they want a caste certificate. We never believed in it.
Right.
When he goes for a reservation within the state government employment quota, then the state government says, I need a caste certificate. And the guy is running around his village and small towns to get that caste certificate. It doesn't exist. You only have religion mentioned because that is for last rites.
Mm. Mm.
Otherwise, there is no requirement. But here, when you play, and then what you are doing is build, like when you say that there is an upper caste, a lower caste, you're playing on it. And then when you're building on the sort of fear which exists of 4 years, what after 4 years? You are actually trying to weaken the system and the organization. for cheap political gains.
Right.
Hey, ultimately, the youth who gets carried away, it was an opportunity open, he will not take it. A few
Mm.
years hence, he's going to curse the same people who misguided him. Because when the first two lots come out and you find that they're settled, you will realize that I was taken for a ride by politicians just to get that vote.
Absolutely. And it's a very dangerous kind of an idea to really start talking about caste and all that, which is happening today, unfortunately.
Sad.
Right?
It is sad.
It's terrible. It's terrible. That's why I wanted to kind of understand your perspective, because army as an institution has been such a pride. Right? We
We've
don't even
never,
talk about
we've,
caste and all that.
we've never thought about such things.
Weird.
I mean,
And
you ask me what is my caste, I don't know.
weird. Weird. And
I
this
mean,
is a very
when my,
dangerous trend that's happening
you
nowadays.
see,
Yeah.
I know when my father or mother died, in fact, when my mother died and you had to go through the ceremonies, and the guy asked, "What's your gotra?" I looked around, I said, "What's a gotra here? I have no
Hmm.
idea."
Hmm.
Then my dad just whispered, "Ki, bhai, ye bol dena." He's also ex-army.
Hmm.
He said, "Ye bol dena, this is common." And that's it.
Hmm.
I mean, across we've seen a different environment. Unluckily,
Absolutely.
we're going sadly into the wrong direction.
Yeah, and weakening the country, right? So we are going against the country's interests just
That is
to,
it.
yeah, defeat somebody because electorally or whatever it is. Okay, so that's a bad trend. Right, sir. Yeah, we will keep it short and sweet today. Thank you so much for your time, Sarji. Thank you for joining me
A
today.
total pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jain, sir.
Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Thank you.